It's very involved, build a lot of tools. Power BI Tips is the website that I created, and I co-run this with Seth Bauer, also out of Milwaukee area. And we just have a lot of fun talking about data and going crazy with it. So this is it for slides. I don't have a lot of slide stuff going on. We're going to just jump into desktop, and that's really where I like to play most of the time anyways. I slightly disagree with the statements. People like to say, hey, this is PowerPoint for data. And I like to think this is more than just PowerPoint for data. It's just data. So let's go here at text bar settings. Let me just turn this off here to hide that. And then we'll open this big up. All right. So, oh, actually, this is the wrong one. Let's go to the right one here. I got another file here. I actually made PowerPoint inside Power BI because I'm just so lazy and I'd rather just spend more time learning how to do Power BI better. So all my slide presentations are inside Power BI. So as a quick show of hands or a quick, comment in the comments area, of the audience that we have online right now, how many of you would say you're with the business or you're with IT? Comment in the chat. Let's just see what we kind of get here. So I'm going to look here at the chat. We got a couple business. Someone says yes, so you're in both of them. Excellent. I love it. Business, both. Yep. All right. Business, a lot of both. Okay, a lot of people playing both sides here. Oh, there we go. There's my business guys. Ex-business, now I'm IT. That's kind of what I would say I was. I'm pretty much ex-business and now moving more into the IT space. Okay, excellent. So thinking about the department that you work in, and you may work in multiple departments, but maybe pick your primary one. Which department would you say you associate with? Again, someone just said operations. Are you like the marketing team? Are you, a distribution warehouse? Are you distribution team? Like what area of the business do you typically come from? We got some people from IT, finance. Oh, finance people. I love finance people. You guys are like my best friends from Excel land. Commercial support. Excellent. Educational services. Awesome. Compliance. Oh, you guys are putting the hammer down, making sure everyone's doing their job. HR. What is the HR guy doing here? Don't worry, it'll be PC. Wait, no worries. We'll hold him accountable. Awesome. So we have a good mix. There's a lot of different spectrums across the space for people to get involved in different parts here. And I would say every department for sure will benefit from building great looking reports and stunning reports. And not only with good data, but making them look sharp. So I'm going to skip the industry one. And then lastly here, I just want to kind of tag, just comment with a number. How many years have you been playing in Power BI? And maybe just go with just Power BI. So 2 years, 1 year. I'm looking for 0 years, brand new. Welcome to the crew. 6 years. All right. So from the beginning, 5. We got a couple 5s. Excellent. Excellent. Oh, 5-year badge from the Power community. Excellent. Well, I'm glad you guys are participating. We have a good mix here. All right. So hopefully I can tickle some of the ears of the professionals who've been doing this for a while. We'll try and do some more advanced things here towards the end, give you some charticulator type things, really get into visual building. But then we're also going to touch on some very surfacey things that you can do right away today to get started and going on this. So one thing I'm going to do here, just rearrange my screen just a little bit more. Okay, get that out of the way. All right, excellent. All right, so moving on. So what do I do? How do I start approaching reports? One of the very first things I do before I even open Power BI Desktop, before we even talk about anything, it's really important that we think about our audience. We start with who is the person that we're going to talk to about our report. And when we look at who that audience is, there are multiple different users that we could be touching, and they need different levels of data, and they have different thresholds for how much data I can push at them. So first and foremost, we want to think about our audience. These are the kind of the key audiences that I've seen. There's the executive level, like maybe a VP or a C level. We have the analyst person who can really handle tons of charts and does a lot of exploratory work in the data. And these analysts may also be the people who are creating reports, or we're building models for an analyst to go build reports on top of. And then we have this kind of, I'll call it the fluffy audience here. It's just general audience. I like to consume data just for the fun of it. And one of the, not to say the pandemic was it is a bad thing. It was a very horrible year last year, but one of the, I feel, interesting things that came out of the pandemic was there was the largest collection of publicly sourced data that I've ever seen. People were putting a bunch of cases in and tracking things, and all these different countries were contributing their information. And I felt like the general audience report for like the COVID-19 reports was very fascinating because everyone had a different spin on how to kind of put some of this data together. And so those would be reports I would say is just for a general audience. Here's some general insights that we're going to give you about a certain report. All right. Moving on over. So there are some questions we're going to have, and these questions will change depending on what our audience is doing. So things we want to start considering is, well, how long will that executive stay in my report? How long will my analyst stay in the report? That could be 30 minutes to an hour. They're going to really play in the data. How many times are they going to visit that report in the same day? Does this data need to drive a direct decision, or I'm allowing you to do more exploratory review of the data and kind of find what you're looking for? Is this report that's going to just have to give me the answer, or do I want to go find my own answers? How often am I coming back to this report? How frequent do I show up? Is this something that I visit multiple times per day? Is this something that I need to take actions on multiple times per day? Or is this something where I'll glance at it once a week or once a month? Those kind of decision points will help you decide how much effort and where to put the effort into building your report. All right. So let's talk about what the executive would look for. Executive typically, in my experience here, they need to see something at just a glance. We only want to see, is it red? Is it green? Is it going up or is it going down? Kind of some just basic trending things. Now, granted, there are executives, and that's saying that they don't want to see the details, and they probably do at some level, but they may not be consuming it the first time they look at a report. Their first initial consumption just maybe a bunch of KPIs and some general trending information so they can go about their day and just kind of figure out what's going on. This is the first thing I look at in the morning. Might be like some phrases you'll hear them say, or I need clear indications or KPIs to tell me how my business is doing. And I find, again, a lot of times we're not interested in drilling through multiple pages. I don't want to have a lot of clicks here. I want to kind of just present what is most important right away. And that's kind of really what we're aiming for these executive level reports. One of the key points here that I'm going to say, and this kind of plays for all reports, is you want to drive for a decision. You want to have the story of your data drive someone to take action on it. All right, moving over to our analyst. This may be a report that we give to our analysts. They have more slicers. There may be more charts on the page. There may be a lot more busyness going on. And I'm not trying to really cater a story and throw out just a couple key KPIs. More visuals on the page won't be distracting. And typically when we're looking at analysts, they're going to have multiple pages. They're going to start on an overview and maybe wander their way into detail pages or other areas of pages or topics that are relevant for them to investigate and get into a bit more. So the analyst, while they may still have an overview page, might have a large number of pages inside the report. They're usually looking for insights, right? So we're doing some maybe advanced visualizations where we build a line chart and we add some anomaly detection. And then we let the analyst dig into that information and figure out why were sales up or why were sales down, and let them kind of really drill into those reports and data for them. These analysts, I find, can like more advanced features. So when we start working with people who are more analytically minded or have the ability to kind of look at and want to see things multiple ways, we'll see cases where we want to have like a line chart or a bar chart, but the analyst may say, well, I also want it to be a table. And so for a way for us to be creative in some of our designs is we want to maximize the space on the page to convey as much data as possible. And I'm a big fan of Power BI is for visuals. It's not for tables. So a lot of the times when I start hearing conversations with individuals or people who are new to Power BI, the first couple of things we do is we put a line chart and then we just drop a table, or we put a bar chart and then we start dropping tables everywhere. And so when I start seeing reports with very wide or lots of tables on the page, we're not doing a good job or doing our due diligence to kind of really weed out what is most important and focus on those things. So this is where I'll emphasize this thing called insights. A lot of the times we want to really focus on what are the insights that this page is telling me. And we kind of lock those into like 3 or 4 key insights that we want to really drill into. Okay. Next topic, audience, the general audience. So this was the Gartner report, I believe, from 2 years ago, where Microsoft was doing some opioid crisis investigation and putting a bunch of population numbers together and a lot of data, but making it very fun and interactive to look at. So this report is very much on the I'm trying to be taught about a topic that I may not know much about. So I don't know a whole bunch about the opioid crisis. I don't know who's using what and which doctors are issuing the most amount of drugs. What is this all about? So this is kind of more of an informative thing. There's a lot of controls on this report to kind of investigate and explore and see what's going inside the data set, but it's going to be in general a bit more artistic. It's going to be something you want to make sure that it's appealing to the eye, easy to look at, and it's going to engage you and draw you in to ask more questions and play around and have time on the report page. So this is a good example of what a general audience report might look like. Okay, so we have this concept of the different audience members. We've picked out who our audit report is going to be aimed towards. The next thing is, well, how do we understand the data set? So this is, a lot of times when I get into a report, I'll just build a bunch of single column tables around the different data fields that are in the report. Now, you can always do this by going into the tables area, and you can click on let's make my zoom it here so we can see that. You can always click in here and, yep, got it running. Okay, good. You can click on the second tab here for data, and then that will expose to us various tables. And this acts just like a table you would in Excel. You would click the table name, filter the data down, and then you can see a subset of information. And then you can pick any table in your data model and kind of look around here. But this is not really always in the report level. This is only in the report developer space. So, when we're looking at this in the report level, as a kind of an initial step, I'll go through and kind of build out a lot of columns here and just try and figure out what kind of data do I have? How many categories are we talking about in the product names area? What's the product models? How many counts do we have? So a lot of times I'll build a product model table and then put a count next to it, or count the name or how many times that name occurred. This is just super helpful for me to get a feeling for what the data can do and potentially what visuals are going to best serve those different data pieces. I may not want to put a bar chart on the product name because there's so many different product names on here. However, the bar charts might be much more appropriate for the product categories because there's only a couple areas here. Now, this may never be used in the actual report, but at least I have tables showing up here to help me as the report author kind of understand the data. Sorry, was there a question or?
Yeah, I had a quick question. Where are you getting the tables? Are they coming from an Excel chart? Or I know my level is at a 0, so.
Oh, yeah, no worries. So for getting information in, so let's talk really quickly. Great question. We have this thing called a data model. So we have, let's go here. We have, and as you get more into building Power BI data sets, you'll have this concept of, we call them facts and dimensions. And this is up here, this is a disassociated table. So to start from ground zero, to get data in, we have this button up here called transform data, or we can use this button called get data. We can have any number of sources. So I'm going to use this this bottom half here. No, I'm not. I'm going to use this top half, this button. We're going to go here. These are every data source that we're talking about to get data into Power BI. These are all the different sources. I can come from Excel, a CSV file. We can load multiple Excel files out of a folder. I can rip data out through a PDF, or we can connect to an Oracle database or SQL Server. But as the list kind of goes on and on and on, all these connectors for Power BI are built into the program out of the box. And then when I connect to these different connection methods, every connector could have a different table. So I could have tables that we load in. And when we enter into this UI screen, let's just click Excel here for kicks and giggles. It's going to ask me for an Excel document. And do I have one that is, hold on, let's see if I've got one here real quick. Let's go to that. Let's go, nope, let's go one up. I don't think I have an Excel document around here somewhere. Let's pick something else. Get data. Let's just go after text CSV. I'll just do all files for now. Okay. So I can connect to a file. Hopefully it'll let me get through this. So this is just a file. We're opening up something on my computer. This is just a random file of some random information. However, this information that we get in this file, we can transform the data and a new window will pop up. And this window is called Power Query. inside the Power Query window, this is where we make our tables of data. So this is where we do the ETL portion of our data loading process. In other programs like Tableau, you have a separate tool or you're pulling from a SQL server. So you're doing the shaping of data somewhere else. Power BI and Power Query allows you to do the shaping of data directly before you bring it to the data model. Every table we make in Power Query, on the left-hand side here, we have all the different types of tables we can make. For my data set that we're looking at here, we're actually pulling off of a public data source. It is an OData feed, basically just a internet available AdventureWorks model. And I just connect to that. And then in that is a SQL database that has multiple tables. Oops, multiple tables. And then I just click on the table that I want, and then I can load data about that table. So it's essentially my example that we're doing here. This is a SQL server, and I'm pulling in data from AdventureWorks.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. So I'm not going to save any changes there. And then as a beginner, Power BI is easy to start, but hard to master, I'll say. And in lieu of that, there's a whole other aspect of like modeling data and bringing data together. We're just going to focus on the report building side for now. All right, zipping back over, discard some changes. All right, discard. So now that I've made some of these tables, I have a general feel for what my data is doing. Again, I may just use this initially, and then I may delete the page out when I'm done because I don't need these tables anymore. I'm not going to try and publish tables to the end users, but it's a good place to get a frame of mind around what's going on with the data. Next thing is, as we move on from our flow of ideas, we may take a step back now that we know what the data kind of looks like. Now we talk with the business requirements, or we go to our sales team or the person who's asking for the report, and we try to develop 3 to 5 questions per page about what I want to show. What were my total sales this year compared to last year? Which region had the highest sales? Or how is my product category performing? And which one's the most profitable? So these are the insightful questions. And before we've even made a visual, we're already talking about what do we want the visual to do? Drive it for action. So this is, I think, really important because each visual becomes an insight or a question that we're going to try to answer. So if we move this a bit further here, what were my total sales this year compared to last year? That may be one of my questions. And then we can say, let's go figure out what chart type would make the most sense to show that. And so down here, we have a little simple bar chart where we've now have 2 different sales, sales last year and then this year. And I can say, yes, I'm almost double what I was last year. It was 26 and now I'm at 42. So we're up. We're doing better than we were last year. And this is what I was talking about. There's this general, is it up, is it down type of methodology on some of these executive dashboards. And if I zoom in here, we're trying to order things and show them. And years are interesting if they go the way you want. But this is just kind of giving me a general trend upwards. So that's good. That's what we're looking for. Not too noisy. Which region had the highest sales this year? So this may be a visual where we want to actually put sales by different countries and allow people to zoom in, and the color intensity may change based on those different countries. So this be a geographical thing. I will say this, maps are very cool. They have a very good wow factor to them. But in reality, when I'm building reports, there's not a ton of reports that I'm building that have a ton of maps. They're more of like a special feature thing. So maps probably aren't my best or my first pick for a lot of my chart types. And then my last insight on this page might be which product category is the most profitable. And then we can start saying, oh, definitely, this is a bar chart. And then we have categories and bar charts there as well. Some other areas here, and I'll point this out because I think this is definitely relevant right now. I'm going to go find it real quick here. The Sql Bi guys, Sql Bi Visual Reference. Look, I go to this all the time and I recommend it to everyone I talk to. This reference guide is amazing. What this is a every visual in Power BI Desktop and some from the Power BI app source store that you can go get. It gives you all the different types of visuals that are out there. If I need to do a comparison, something change over time, if I want to rank something in order or have a ranking of items, if I'm talking about geospatial things, this gives you a really good kind of help initially to go pick out the right visual and make sure that you're getting the right visual for the insight that you're looking for. And again, there's a whole bunch of extra things in here. It tells you about which visuals are built in, which visuals are certified, which ones require R, all kinds of other fun things that are happening in the visual space. This is quite old. It hasn't been updated since September 2018, but there's still a lot of relevancy to it. And maybe some of the visuals aren't there in the store anymore, but all the core visuals that Power BI has made are still there and are getting enhanced. And I will quickly grab that and I'll put that link in the chat window. There you go. Okay. So there's the link in the chat window. And then let's move on. All right, next. So this is one concept that Tommy Puglia and I have kind of beat around quite a lot. And Seth Bauer, we've kind of discussed on this quite frequently. I really like doing post-it notes. So I do this activity that I like to do before I build reports, especially when I have like a group of people that I'm working together to kind of centralize them on what are we going to build? We need the sales report. What does this look like? So we get everyone in a room. I give everyone a post-it note, a little a stack of them, like 10 or so. I give them a big black Sharpie and we just write out ideas. What is the insight? What do you want to know about the sales data? I want to know which my top sales representative. I want to know which product is selling the most, which product has the highest margin, where are we losing the most money on a product? And we put all these questions up on the board and we just take everyone's post-it note. Everyone has a voice. And if you're the one leading that discussion, you really want to encourage everyone to participate. So people who are being very quiet and not putting up a lot of ideas may want to reach out to them directly and be like, hey, Ed, I haven't heard you say anything in a while. How about you, what are you thinking about? And I find some of the insights that people who are kind of standing back and thinking through things and taking things in, they've really thought about it very, very intently, and they come up with some really good ideas. Once we have the post-its all on the wall, and maybe we've got 10 or 15 of them, and then we have another exercise where we sit back and say, let's group these post-it notes into ideas, other topics that we're talking about. And you almost always see right away, there are some high-level ideas. What are my total sales for this year, for this month? And we can say, oh, that's KPI related. That's our overview dashboard. And so we kind of take those ideas and start grouping all the post-it notes into topics. And so you kind of find right away, hey, these questions, these 5 insights are dealing more with the sales representatives versus these topics were about products. So when we do that, we can then say we might need 2 different pages now, one page for products and one page for sales team. And so now we can start taking the topics and ideas and kind of smushing them together. Well, once we have that, then we talk about, okay, what kind of data do we need? So then now that we have about 3 to 5 visuals broken out into a section, now we can start saying, okay, let's whiteboard what these visuals would look like. How should we put the data together? What might we think it looks like here? And I usually just draw on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper and we doodle out some ideas. Some of them work, some of them don't. And as you do this more often, you get more familiar with like, well, if we build a bar chart and there's not much variance here, that probably wouldn't be the best visual. Let's use a line chart instead. And you can start to kind of help visualize and build things and kind of prepare what you're going to be doing inside the report. And then our final step is I like using a lot of early prototypes. So simple charts with a simple slicer, get into the data, and we start building out those whiteboarded visuals one at a time. And then sometimes I'll even build one visual per page and then, get it the way I like it, and then kind of move the visuals back, copy paste them back to one page where we start bringing the whole page together. All right, next. I like to keep things simple. You can always make a report more complex, but it's hard to keep it simple. So that's why I really stress, 3 to 4 insights per page. And if you look at my chart on the right here, we've got a KPIs area, and I'll break down the insights that we're looking here. So on this chart, we have 4 KPIs on the left-hand side, and it's kind of our key indicators of sales by different categories. Our next insight is like a little trend of sales by product, and then comparing between products. And then I have another one here, another very similar idea. We're looking at average sale price. So another generic KPI. And then we have a little bubble chart here. And we might have like list price versus the weight of the product, or units sold versus average revenue, something like that, or whatever we're kind of building here. But those are kind of like, we have 4 key areas. And I, for sake of argument here, I would say most of the visuals here on the left-hand side, even though there are 4 of them, since they're all single data points, I kind of bundle all of the KPI things together as like a single visual. That's like a single insight, single points in time. Okay, let's move on again. Okay, so there are some interesting ways you can explore your data, and hopefully this feature is still working here. So I should be able to double click a report page and you can start asking questions on it. So if you don't know how to do this yet, or never knew you could do it, you just double click on the canvas anywhere, and then you can start asking a question about the data. Total sales, and then it starts presenting to you information about the data model. Total sales by order year. Okay, let's look at that one. And then boom, it builds a chart for you. So you can actually ask questions directly against your data and start typing keywords or key things about your data model, and it tries to present some information to you that's insightful. If you like that, you can turn it into a visual. And so I just clicking that button made it now a visual on my page, and I don't have to build anything. I just asked the question, and now I've got count of sales by order year. Now this might make might not make a lot of sense by just counting things, but at least it gives you a starting point. And then you can also insert an actual Q&A button. So the same way you can double click on the report page, you can actually add a button. So in order to do that, we would go up here to the insert ribbon on the top part of our toolbar, insert. We're going to have this thing called buttons. And then if we click on buttons, we go down here to the Q&A button halfway down, and that's the button we can add. So if we click that button, Q&A, this is now an icon that we put on the page, and this is another interaction. Clicking this, you now have a whole new screen of other options, average sales here. And oops, I'll click it again. Show locations by territory name, something like that. So you can start adding different data points on your visual, and it'll, again, try to help build a visual for you, and you can ask questions of your data and try to have more of a conversational language against what the data is giving you. So those are two kind of key options there that you can use for exploring some of your data that you have there. And I'm going to skip this one for now, and we're going to move over to our next slide deck. While I pause there, any questions around like the process that I use? Any comments? Fernando says, kiss it. Make sure you keep it simple, silly. All right. Don't see any other key questions here.
So, Mike, let me ask you this, because I've done the post-it note and that kind of concept, whether it's Power BI or whatever.
Yeah.
How are you doing that remotely and virtually?
Oh, great question. I haven't been doing as many needed to recently. I actually have. Oh, actually, I lied. So I kind of just did an exercise today. So I have another computer here. This is my Surface Book, and on there I actually have a whiteboard. And so the whiteboard app on my computer. So I'll log in with my desktop, and then I'll log in with my other computer. This is a touchscreen, and I have that little Microsoft pen that goes with it. And I'll just have people request things. I'll have them type it in the chat window, or I'll just draw it up. And I literally draw like little Post-it notes or put a bunch of idea bubbles together. And then when I'm in the whiteboard app, you can actually drag them together and just group ideas together. So that's one of the things I've been doing more recently now that I'm way more digital and I'm not in person. I can't actually be on a wall putting Post-its on the page.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely more difficult doing that kind of stuff.
You got to be more creative, that's for sure. The pandemic has been good for me for business, but it's also been bad for my wallets because apparently every time I see a new computer, I want to buy one. So I keep picking up a bunch of hardware and gear and gadgets because it's fun. So anyways, great question. Anyone else? Another one I will say, another technique that I use, you can use, I'm pretty sure that OneNote, I've been pretty creative in there as well. And so with OneNote, you can actually have multiple people in the same notebook typing things in different areas of that notebook. So you can actually get into OneNote and start kind of just typing together if you want as well. So if you're in the same team, in the same organization, you can share OneNote from a SharePoint page. Everyone can get in that notebook and you can start typing things, and then everyone's comments will kind of get synced together. You can also drag those comments around together as well. So that's another collaborative way of kind of doing it together.
Makes sense. Yeah, I use OneNote a lot for documentation and stuff. I didn't think about using it for that. So that sounds really good.
I use it for everything. I love OneNote.
It, yeah.
It's my tool of choice at this point for keeping my notes together.
Cool.
All right, so we're going to jump into more demo stuff. I'm going to just build things now and just make things happen inside Power BI. So first thing we're going to touch on is the theming. So what, for those of you who don't know what a theme is, let's just go over that basic concept. So on the view ribbon inside Power BI desktop, we're going to click on that. And then we're going to go over here to the left-hand side. I'm just going to walk through this toolbar. On the left-hand side here, we have these different themes. These are built-in themes that Microsoft provides you. And you can pick a theme. And when you pick those themes, it'll change the color palette and settings and other things about the report. It just automatically happens. You can also change inside the theming window. If I click the down arrow here, here are all the listed themes that you have. Your selected themes at the top, and then all the themes down here below are the options that are kind of built in by default. You can also browse for themes, meaning you can upload them from your machine, and you can customize your current theme. So if I go here to, I'm not going to do browse right now, but I'm going to customize the current theme. This is a dialog box that Microsoft has added to change just a lot of generic properties across all the visuals and all the styles. So there are theme colors. This is the 8 colors that you would see in the panel window when you format things. And then you'll have these sentiment colors. So there's actually some general colors around negative, positive, and neutral. And these are based on certain types of visuals. So when you have a visual that has a positive, negative effect to it, for example, a waterfall chart, the waterfall chart will have things that are going down in value, red, negative, and things going up in value as a positive green. And so these colors define what is negative and positive. There's a lot that goes on here. I'm not an expert in all these things, but I would say this. There's a lot of great websites and people who have studied different colors and color palettes. I believe I just read a statistic the other day that 9% of all males are colorblind to the red and greens. So reds, I think, go a bit more shaded grays versus the green colors. So when we're picking various traditional yes and no red and green colors, we have to be very careful about that and think about contrast and make sure our audience, who may be partly colorblind, we're picking colors that are color accessible to their group and and people consuming the report. So just be aware of that when you're picking colors. Again, there's a great number of websites. Google some, colorblind safe coloring. That stuff is available to you all on the internet. So along with colors, you can then change the different text options. You can change the title values. So what does the formatting of each title of each visual look like? Cards and KPIs, the tab headers, how do you want those to look? You can stylize all of them here. In the visuals area, you can change the background, the border, header. What is the tooltip? What does the formatting for that look like? And then on the page level, you have some additional page options, and then you have the filter pane. So this is the filter pane panel that flies out here. So this filter window on the right-hand side, that's what that's talking about. You can actually stylize this thing as well. So those options are available to you. You can change those options, and it will be automatically saved to the theming that's belonging to the file. So in addition to this, I'll also point out one of the tools I'm very passionate about is if you want to go even further than that, and if those general options don't meet your needs, I have this really cool tool called themes.powerbait.tips. So I'll kind of walk you really briefly through this tool. And you can, we have a color palette here on the left-hand side. You can go grab a color. You can click add individual colors. So you can change the color and then add another color, add another color. So you can build a color palette this way. You can also, I believe I still have it on my computer. I have a program called Power Tools, and there is a color picker. So you can activate, so this is a Microsoft Power Toys settings. It's a Microsoft GitHub repo that you can go get. But when you do this, you can actually go grab the color picker. Windows Shift C allows you to go get the picker. So I'm going to just go here, and because you guys are in California and I love surfing, let's see if we can grab a picture here off the internet. There we go, pictures of surfing. So Windows Shift C is what we're doing. And now I get a little color picker. I can go pick colors off of stuff. And now I've got some color codes here. So I can just quickly, right with my desktop, go grab a color code. And now that I have this one, I can go grab the hex code here if I want. I have a little copy button. So I just copy that hex code. You can go right back over to the theme generator. You can just dump it in here and hit add. And then it will add the color directly in here as well. So this is a way of bringing the colors together. Some other features that are unknown here, there's a little handle on the left-hand side of these. So if you want to change the order of the colors, you can do that by just grabbing and dragging and dropping them around. And if you want to tweak the color, you just click on the little green square. It goes back to the color that it was originally made, and then you can readjust it. You'll also notice here there's a multiple input box. So I added one color code here, but if I downloaded this theme, hit download, and then I open up the JSON theme, this is why I do this, and so you don't have to. This is all the code that's created from that, and it will get busier as we go here. But if I copy out just the hex codes, so these are the hex codes that we have here, just a comma separated list of hex codes. If I go grab this straight up, grab the whole thing, copy, minimize this, and go back to the tool, just dump it in here, hit add, it will parse out the commas, it'll parse out the quotes, and just give you a full list of colors. So these are the same colors I had earlier, but now we've got even more colors here. So all you need is just a bunch of colors and we can go play with them. You can remove them by clicking the X's and getting rid of those colors. Excuse me. Moving on deeper, right? These are just the color properties. Excuse me. And we can actually go all the way into having different visual styles. So if I click on this stacked bar chart, you now can see all the different properties for the stacked bar chart. So in here, you can then open up the legend, change its properties. Now, the interesting part here about this tool and why it's a bit different than most other tools is if I select the color for the label of this, I give you the color palette that you've already added earlier in the program. So you can go pick different colors or shades of that color if you want to take a derivative off of your color. So we can click this darker green for the label color. And then you've got a whole bunch of other options in here on the x-axis, things you can start and end, change font types, all kinds of fun things. There's just tons and tons and tons of options that you can select here, and it makes it really easy for you to select things. Now, when I've selected the colors, let's do one more thing here. Let's go background. I'll make this very easy to see what we're doing. Hit that, and we'll download this theme, test 2. Once we download the theme, we can open it up, and it's not easy to look at, so let me format it for you. This is all the code that is being generated for you automatically. So you don't have to worry about it. You just go to the tool, pick a couple things, and download it. And so now all the properties that we styled for the bar chart will now be pre-applied. And when we load this file back into desktop, those properties will be automatically applied into Powerbait Desktop. So we go over here to desktop, we click the down arrow, we would click browse for themes, and then we would be able to pick our theme that we downloaded to my desktop. Easy as that. I'm not going to do it right now, but that's kind of how it works. Let's go over to layouts. So another thing that we've produced kind of as a tool, there's a number of these that are free at Power BI Tips. So if you want to go download some and try them out for yourself, we have these things called a layout. So what does a layout do? What is the purpose? So the purpose of a layout is, I'll go click on it real quick. The layout option here is a way to kind of get you started. We've already put a background color on some of these. We've already added some visuals on the page that don't have any data in them. So you can actually quickly get into building a report and have visual things on the page ready to go. I'll go to the free ones down here. It's a little easier to see. In these examples, we actually build a full report for you. Here's a sample report. And then we give you the report with a data set so you can see how it might work and what the interactions would look like. And then we give you a whole nother report with no data. So everything works, all the mechanics in there are built into it. And this one's a good example because we actually have some advanced features in here. This one has some really cool page navigation where you have page navigation on the page, where as you click the bars on the left-hand side, it automatically navigates to different pages for you. So that's kind of cool. And then we also have this filter button that if you click the filter button, it shows you a list of filters that are on the page. And then you can customize, change these, whatever you want there. You can close out that button and go back to the main page. Another technique that I would really recommend you use when you're building reports is to really inform people about what data you're giving them. What does this chart mean and why is it there? We talked earlier about these insights, right? If we're building one visual or one area of the report to have an insight, let's describe what it is. Hey, this bar chart's trying to answer this question. And so what we can do is we can click the little information button on the upper left-hand corner. And by doing that, we now put a whitewash across the page. We kind of make it fade away and then give you a little information box where you type in text and put text in there as well. So these are files. This one's for free. You just go download it. You can go play with it, pull it apart, see how it works, figure out how I built it. It's theirs and yours for the picking. If you want some more professionally made ones and things that we're putting our stamp of approval on, we've got some ones that you can go buy, and those are we've spent more time on that to kind of refining, keep making sure those are up to date so everyone gets a good experience and getting a good starting point for where your report begins. Okay, so this one, let's use a layout in this one, for example. So if I grab a couple of these visuals here, so this may be like a report that I've built. I've just kind of put a couple visuals on the page and I want to make it look better. So why use the layouts? So if I grab all the visuals here, I'm just going to kind of click and drag. I click them all. I'm going to copy them, Control C. I'm going to go over to my page here. And so this is my dummy report. And I have all my things on the page already. It's ready to go. Let's get rid of this guy. And I'm going to just paste my visuals here. So I bring up my layout, boom, paste all my stuff on the page. And now I've got a bunch of things here. I think I missed one visual, so I'm going to go get it. So back over here on the layouts, I'm going to grab my other victims by state, paste it over here, and pop that guy in there as well. Okay, now I've got visuals on the page, but now I just want to rearrange them so they look good. So now I can just go grab my visuals, and then I can use the guides, which these little red lines that are showing up here, these are super helpful. I use them all the time. And if you don't have them on, you should turn them on. I believe there are in the file options and settings under the options. And I can't remember if this is a preview feature or not. I don't think it is. I think it's just in this report settings. It's buried in here somewhere. Can't remember exactly where it is. I thought it was a preview feature. I don't know. Can't remember where it is. Anyways, make sure you turn those on. So those guides are super helpful. Another couple tricks that you can use here with the key commands. So there are some shortcut keys. If you want an even spacing between objects, if you grab a visual and snap it to the side here, so it's on the very edge of the page, you can nudge a visual 1 pixel at a time by using the arrow key. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 pixels over. And if you want to go faster, if you hold the shift key and use the arrow keys, it's now doing 10 at a time, 10, 20, 30. So if you want visuals to be very equally spaced across your page, and I highly recommend spending some real time trying to get all the visuals dialed in where you want them. But then once you get the visual where you want, if you want to bump it off the edge an equal amount, hold the shift key, use the left arrow, down arrow, left arrow, down arrow. And now I've got a 20 pixel border between the top edge and the right edge. So it's already designing the report to be nice and even for me. Let's go grab these two guys up here on the cards. Another technique I really like to use here is the grouping method. So there's a shortcut key that does this. You can also do it a number of other ways by using the buttons, but Control G groups 2 objects together. And why would you want to do that? Grouping 2 objects together now moves them together as one object. And now I can put them anywhere I want on the page. In addition to that, I can now shrink and grow them as one unit. So it's acting like a single visual, and I can just shrink and grow them together. So I'm going to grab these 2 visuals up here like this. And because the text is really crazy now, another technique I can use is this font size is wrong. If you grab 2 of the same kind of visuals, so I selected the card and the other cards, just the 2 cards, when you click on the paint roller, if you go into the data label, you can modify both visuals at the same time. Now, you can't do this if they're different visuals. I can't grab a bar chart and do it on a KPI. I have to pick the same cards for both. So I can go in here and say, instead of 45, I go 35, and boom. So now I'm able to change both of those 2 cards at the same time. Let's go back down a little bit more, 30. That looks better. We'll leave them there. So those are my 2 KPIs up there at the front. And I want to bring my other chart here. So I'm going to make sure it lines up well. So I'll bring it up here to the left, and I'm going to make it directly on this line here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to use my cursors to nudge it, and then using shift, right arrow. That gives me my 20 pixel spacing. Now, another trick I use is when I want these to be spaced evenly in the middle, I'll line up the edges so they match, use my shift arrow again, shift right. And now I will bring back the edge, the 20 pixels that I just moved, and shift left. And now I get a nice even spacing around that edge too. So a lot of what I do and what I work heavily on is to make sure that I adjust all the visuals so that they've got really good spacing, shift down. And I think I need to go from the bottom here. So let's put this visual on the bottom here like this, shift up. I'll then bring the top edge up here, shift up. And then I'll bring the edge back down, shift down. And now I've got my chart. And let's stretch him out somewhere over there. And we'll do the same with this one. Snap it there to that front top edge. I'll stretch it so it matches. Stretch it so it matches. Shift left. Grab the edge, move it over. shift right, and now I've got equal segments. So now I know everywhere and all my edges, and this is the part that I think is really critical. I used a lot of control shifting, nudging of visuals here. But now that I did that, I know that for a fact, the spacing here, 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 and here are now all the same equal distance. They're all 10 pixels apart. So super good technique there for making things line up and just snap together and make them real even. And I already noticed a mistake. If you see up here, I did not get this one together right. So because that pixel will bother me, I'm going to drag this up so it matches. And there we go. Now we got it matching. Okay. And that's that. So this is another principle that I use a lot when I'm building reports is the Gestalt Principle. And the Gestalt Principle is making sure that you have, there's a lot of things, color, alignment, making sure things look like they're together. One of the Gestalt principles is the alignment principle, making sure that your edges are nice and clean and well lined up together. And with that, we now can compare. This is what my report kind of could have looked originally. And now I go to page number 1, and now I've got this nice color border. It's adding a lot more impact to what we're doing with a minimal amount of effort. And because I'm going to be bothered by it, I will also make this thing lined up here and here. And now I've got that lined up as well. So now it feels like it's a bit more aligned. Got to practice what you preach. And then you can go ahead and build another page. So this could be page 2 or other things there as well. So this would then have, if you're using a layout, you would actually be able to then navigate between page 1 and page 2, and then have all your visuals kind of just built there. All right, let me pause there for a second. I went through a lot of things. Shannon has a hand up.
I think that was from the last time. Maybe I should take it down.
Oh, it's okay. You're more than welcome to ask another question if needed.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions while we keep going here? Let's.
So, Mike, you showed us how to create a theme and pick colors, but do you have a page that will help us pick colors? Because I don't pick colors that go well together. It looks like, a 3-year-old dressed themselves.
Great question. Okay, so that's an awesome lead in, and I should give you a big hand and round of applause for that. So there's a couple of places you can go. I'm going to start with my stuff that I use, and then you guys, I'll show you some other places I also go for great color picking. All right, first one I like to go to the community or designers that are way better than I am. So I have a website page called gallery.powerbi.tips. This is another one that I've built. Gallery.powerbi.tips. If you go here, this loads all the latest colors that have been built in the theme tool. So what this does is it loads all the colors for today, and then you can hit the more button until you're blue in the face. I've got over 10,000 colors logged on this website, and then you can just kind of keep scrolling. And so this is going to help you just kind of pick interesting color palettes that you may not have thought of. So you can keep going here. You just kind of keep picking and picking and picking, and it'll just keep producing colors over and over again. And you'll notice here, some people kind of downloaded the same color multiple times. So you'll see some multiple colors show up. But if you like a lot of colors, you just want to keep scrolling, you could spend days here just kind of going through stuff. And this will change every day. Always be new colors. Once you find one that you may like, this is interesting to me. Let's go with this color. If I click a palette here, what this will do is this will automatically load a sample Power BI report that's fully interactive. And you can click on the report pieces, and it automatically sees how this would react and what this theme might look like inside your report. If you like it, download it. If not, move on and just hit the more button and just kind of keep growing, looking for, oh, this guy was doing a ton. Boom, 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 a ton of those colors. Just keep cruising for more colors until you find one. Here's a good one. Let's look at that one. This one looks interesting, like a sand, beachy kind of theme color to it. So let's see if that one will load. Hopefully. Maybe not. There it goes. All right, so now I've got now I can see what this theme color would look like. And so you can, if you like this color palette, or if you don't 100% like it, right? You can download it. You can open up the file again, grab the data colors out, and say this is not really what I want. I want to modify it, and then you can go cancel here, and then at the top of the page, you can zip back over and create my own. So that you can go right back over to the theme generator, dump in your code, hit enter, add those guys up, and then we can nix out the colors that we don't like, and then we can refine the color palette. So now we've just rebuilt off of someone else's color palette within a couple clicks. So that's one technique I use a lot because the community is really rich and they have tons of colors out there. Another one is Adobe Color Wheel. And this is another really good one that I like. This one I believe is free to a certain degree. And then you can actually do Explore. So they have this thing called Recolor. So it's adobecolorwheel.com. Oops, sorry. adobecolor.com. And then here they have interesting photos. And I believe you can also upload your own photo here and get this color palette. So if you like, they're basically taking pictures here. And I think you can also search by types, ocean. And what it will do is it'll go find pictures of things that are ocean related and then give you those color palettes for you. So again, really rich here. You can then get this whole theme here. The only downside of this is it's a little bit harder to get the actual palette, the colors out of this. It doesn't like give them all to you at once. So in this case, if you're going to go get these, let's see here. I don't think I can rip it out of this part here. I have a, oops, yeah, so it's going to make you log into like if you have an account or something like that. So bit of a downside, you can copy all the color codes out of these one by one. I have, hopefully in my free time, I'll probably get these at some point, is be able to grab these output files here and then just load them into the theme generator. So you can just go get these files as well. So this is another really rich tool. There's a ton of other really cool things out there. We're working on a new tool that we're going to hopefully add here in the next, actually, you know what? Let me go back to this color wheel from Adobe real quick. One last color palette picker. You can do this create option. So we've actually made this color wheel that we're going to be adding to the theme generator in some point in the future, but this allows you to grab different color palettes in an array of colors. So you can go here and then you can go into this color wheel and you can pick the intensity of the color. So whether it's lighter towards the middle or darker towards the outside, and then you can adjust each of these arms essentially to change how the color wheel is interacting. And then as you drag this wheel around, these are all complementary colors. This also has a bunch of options you can pick by analogous, monochromatic, triad, complementary, split complementary, and oops, sorry. And you can also, I think you can change the number of colors in here. No, you can't. It's only 5. So I'm building a new tool that's going to allow you pick the number of colors and then do all this stuff as well. So this is a TBD coming soon to a theme generator near you where you'll help you and pick more colors as well. Great question. Okay, cool. All right, moving on. Everyone looks like we're good there so far. All right, and what's my time, guys? How long? I'm confused about the California time. So we're at 8:49 my time. Are we at 10 minutes left till the end?
I think we've allotted until 7:15, so up to 25 more minutes if you want to go. And
All right.
Obviously people need to drop off, they can, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm really enjoying this.
You must stay. No one leaves. You're locked in. So okay, all right.
So your schedule basically, Mike.
Okay,
your
good.
schedule.
I'm going to keep going because I love this stuff and I could talk on it for days. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is this is the one that was just recently released. I'm super excited about this. It's now a real visual. So this is this is the program I was talking about earlier. That's actually HTTPS. It's charts.powerbi.tips. This I think is really, really cool. So visuals that you get from desktop, there's a spectrum here, right? There's custom visuals that are built in, right? There is, yes, Christian, the recording will be posted out to YouTube. I think Ed's recording it now and we'll post it out to the YouTube group later on. So if you look in the, oops, I did that wrong. If you look over here in the visualizations window, these are the standard visuals that come with desktop out of the box. You can just use these all day long. These visuals do 85 to 90% of what you need for visuals. And for going quickly and building visuals rapidly, this is the way to go. Then there's the other end of the spectrum, full custom developer. Like I'm writing D3.js, I'm building custom visuals, I'm writing code. And that's probably for a select few and not the wide audience that we want for Power BI development. So what's that middle ground? And that's where Charticulator shows up. So charts.powerbi.tips. Sadly, I cannot take full credit for this. This is a Microsoft research project that is incredible. So this is their program. And again, I create bespoke chart designs without any programming. And it really is. There's really no programming that goes along with this, but you can do really rich chart design here to see what's going on. So if I click on here and say start Charticulator, this is the program. So this is the website program. What Microsoft has just released this month, which again, I'm super thrilled about. I've already got a whole YouTube series on just working in this tool and explaining how it works. So go check it out on YouTube. I'm not going to go into all the details here right now, but suffice it to say is this same application, the same application we're looking at here on this page is the same one I can bring in now to my desktop. So if I go in here and click the ellipsis and say, get more visuals, hopefully it'll load. This is taking a while because I've been seeing this recently that where it takes a bit longer for it to load this menu option. What it will do is it'll go out to the powerbi.com network or app source, and it'll allow you to pick a bunch of visuals that you want to render inside your report. So you go to the search window, type in Charticulator, and boom, this is now that application as a custom visual. This is huge. I don't think you guys understand how cool this is. So now I can take this super awesome visual and I can just start whipping together stuff and doing super creative things. I'm going to build a super, oh, thank you very much. Thank you for dropping the YouTube playlist channel there. Thank you. I appreciate that. So the link in the chat is for all the videos that you can find for the Charticulator stuff. All right. So now that I've imported this visual, we're just going to play with it right now. So I'll give you a quick build in a Charticulator visual, do a brief explanation, and we'll get one of these working here. And I'll show you a very fancy one I did on the other page. So in this Charticulator visual, first thing I like to do always with Charticulator aggregates all your data for you. So whatever you can make in a table is the exact same data that will be represented when you get into the Charticulator application. So I always start with a table, make a table right away, and we're going to put some just data on it. So here's my data, and I'm going to bring in the different states. So this is the states of the United States. And then I have a simple data column here for, incidents by the count of, an average number of counts per state, something like that, drug incident counts or traffic violations, something like that. So I have like a number here that goes along with this, just some arbitrary information. I believe this number is actually in like thousands or something like that. That's why there's a decimal there, but whatever. So the idea here is I have some data and I have it at a row level. This is Alabama and it's being aggregated to the dimension of Alabama. If I go over here to the implicit measure that I'm using, and Ed, kudos to you for making sure that everyone builds explicit measures all over the place and no using implicit measures or implied measures here. Great suggestion, highly recommend it. That's definitely best practice. But in this case, I'm going to say this one's do not summarize. So it's just going to, it's state. The drug information, it's going to do a sum. So let's, say imagine I had different counties in Alabama, right? This one number for traffic of 19.4 could be a lot of other numbers aggregating across the entire state, right? And the reason I'm building this chart is because I need to look at the row by row level detail to see what kind of data I have to work with inside Charticulator. So now that I've got this chart, my favorite pattern to do this is I grab the chart of data, I put it somewhere on the page, Control-C, on the page, Control-V. We just dump it back on the page, and then I change the chart type to Charticulator. So what this does automatically for me is it gives me the instructions on how to use it. On the right-hand side, we have data, links, and tooltips. I'm not going to use links or tooltips for now. It's a bit, it's a bit more involved. So I'm going to actually move all the data points up to the single data area. So again, I can envision this data as a single table. The same information I see in the table on desktop is the exact same information I'm going to see here. Now, why do I like this? I keep hitting the button. I'm so sorry. Why do I like Charticulator in the desktop? Because I have the tabular object model, the TOM, the fields list. I can see all my fields here. And when I'm in Charticulator, the program, I can now quickly add data. And before, I'd have to go build a table, export it to CSV, import it to a website, do some changes, export a visual, import it. It just removes a lot of thrashing. So now we got to build the visual. So how do we do that? The next thing we got to do, which is not very clear, is click the little ellipsis on the upper right-hand corner of the visual, and then click it, and then click edit. And once I click edit, boom, I'm now in the particular app. The create chart button will not illuminate until you actually have data added to it, and then you can click create chart. Now, here's another whole UI on top of another UI. So this is Inception now. I've got a Power BI UI, and now I've got another. It's crazy. Too much going on. So when I'm building these things, I usually minimize everything I can in Power BI Desktop to build all the landscape area just for Charticulator. This is the only thing I'm going to work in. If I want to see the data, I click the ellipsis up here, and then it shows me exactly how the data is represented inside Charticulator. And now we have this new this concept. Okay, this is going to take a while for your head to get around how to build stuff in this program. It's entirely different than how you're used to building in every other visual that you've been built. Every other visual, you're given properties and you drag fields in and things show up. In this case, I have the data first, and now I start thinking about, well, how do I make data points for this data? So we know we have 50 states because that's 50 states in the United States. If I grab a shape here or a symbol and drag that into my glyph, now let's explain what a glyph is. A glyph is a single data point. I have 50 states. Therefore, I have 50 dots, one representing each state. So this table is representing a row by row detail of what's graphically represented by a single glyph. This is where things get really cool. I've got a dot in here, so I'm going to zoom into the dot. The next thing that you need to know is there are plot areas. So this is the layers that we're talking about. Let me minimize the glyph now. So we've talked about the glyph representing a single row of data. Now we have this thing called the chart area, the plot area. The plot segment is, you have two types of them, two-dimensional, X and Y, or one-dimensional. It's a single line. That's all you can do. You can change how that data is represented, whether it's in a line or in a circle, but you basically get, that's really kind of all that you get in this data set. You have a bunch of properties here that you can adjust. You can filter things, you can group them. Again, you have another whole window. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Again, watch the videos on YouTube. I'm not going to go to all of it. There's a ton of other cool things here. You can do these things called packing, which is taking, instead of having all the data points as a single data point in a row, we can now pack the data points together into like a cluster. And it kind of just sucks them all together like a magnet. And let's just, for arbitrary kicks and giggles here, if we go into the glyph again and we zoom into this data point, one thing I didn't mention that's actually very important here. See these anchors that they're like these little green dots? Those are the anchors in here. One of the key things that we need to know is, what do these dotted lines mean and why are they important? The dotted lines up here, this is the line that I'm hovering over here. Let's go zoom in again. This dotted line and this dotted line, these are the guides of the page. These do not move. If you resize the page, those guides will stay locked into wherever they are. So whenever you're building things, whether it's a glyph or a report on the page or whatever it is, you're looking for these green dots. The green dots are important because that means it's anchored in place. If I take this chart and move that data point, this is no longer anchored because it has a white center to it. And that way, if I grab and resize the page, this may or may not grow and shrink with the page size. It may do some screwy stuff like right here. See, I'm shrinking the page, but that visual is not changing width. So it's very important that we at minimum lock all the anchors onto something so that the dot is green. And that means the position is defined. This is super happy from my engineering days when I was in SolidWorks. And SolidWorks, we had this same, is the definition constrained? Do we have constrained definition? And this is kind of what that's doing. So in this packing one, we've changed the chart type here to packing. And let's just grab the size of these bubbles. So I can go over here. And so this bubble has, this symbol has properties. So if I go down here, we click under the glyph, under symbol number 1, here's all the things that we can adjust. Is it what type of shape is it? What size is it? What's the fill color? Does it have a stroke around the outside edge? Does it have transparency, which is opacity? Is it shown by visibility? Is it conditional by something? So all these are the properties. These are all the properties that go along with that single shape. So if we take the traffic area and we put that to the size, we now see the size of the bubble is now linked to whatever the average of traffic is. Now, it's saying average because it has to aggregate. But when we look at the table again, for each state, we only have a single value for that state. So even though it's saying average, it's still just doing one row of data per state, per bubble. There's other things we can do later on by like adding an index column and making more rows, and then you can aggregate things by other. We're not going to go there. It can get fun. Again, watch the YouTube videos. And then what we also might want to do is add color by state. So now we can cluster those groups together. Now we have a size thing grouping by state. And this color palette is being driven off of the color palette that has been selected from Power BI Desktop. So they're kind of matching there. If you don't like that color palette, you can click the color palette. I think in, how do I adjust this beyond this? You can pick other color palettes. I'm not sure. Let me just erase that quick here. State first. Sure. It's escaping me how I change the palette beyond whatever that's there, but there are, trust me, there are other palettes that we can use as well if we need to. Okay, good enough now. So let's build something like, why is this different? So one, we don't have this cluster packing type chart. And again, I think this would be more like a tree map, not super helpful for data insights. So let's build a bar chart, but let's add some things to it. Let's do things to a bar chart we can't do in desktop. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna erase my glyph. I'm going to open my glyph area up again. And now this time, instead of having a little single dot, we're going to add a full bar. So I'm going to go up to the marks section. And we're going to grab this rectangle thing. I'm going to grab the rectangle and drop it in the marks area. And so now, this is all a mess. So we're still in that packing system. So we're going to change it from packing, and we're going to say, let's stack all these bars across the X axis, stacking the X. So this is a column chart. Now what we want to do is we want to take some data points and drive what those bars are doing based on data points. So let's go over here and let's grab drugs, and we're going to grab the drugs value and put that on the height of the bar. So the longest bar scales the entire chart. The longest bar scales all other bars to match it. So now we have a height of those bars. Now that we have all the heights defined, we can then add colors to states. So if I go down here to the shape again, and I can then go down here and do, actually, I'm not going to do color by, I don't have any aggregations on it. We'll leave it off for now. I'm going to leave it off for just for a minute here. So now that we have the bars on the chart, maybe we want to add some additional data. So this is where things get really interesting because I can label things however I want. I'm going to grab the label, and I'm going to go here to the top middle part of the bar, and I'm going to add a data label here. So this is going to put text on the end of the data chart. I'm going to move the text up, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, like that. And so now I've got text hanging off the end of my data bar. Can't do that in Power BI Desktop. You just can't. So now we want to add the state name to the end of that. Boom. And it's way too big. So let's shrink it down something small. Don't need it to be massive. And I'm going to recenter this again so it's right at the end. So now I've got each state's name at the end of the data bars. And maybe we want to do something else funny on the other end. You know that I'm thinking about it. Let's not do the name down there. Let's put the name somewhere else. Actually, let's put the name at the base of the bar. I think that sounds better. We'll put the name at the base because I think that's going to look better. Let's do that. Yeah, now they're all aligned. So now we have all the names at the right height. Let's put those guys in there. And let's make our data bars something else a bit more dynamic. Hopefully I can change this time. Yeah, okay, let's go. Let's go with blue, darker blue. Yeah, dark blue. Let's change the text of this label. So I'm clicking the label in the glyph, clicking the color, changing it to white. Very white, very hard to see there. Let's make my chart a little bit wider. Okay, we're getting there. It's a little bit better. Good enough for now. And then maybe we want to add another data label at the end of the bar. So maybe we want to add the number or the numerical value at the end of the bar. So let's just grab, I think we put, for the plot segment, we used the average of the drugs. Let's just drop a glyph on a text box. We'll put a text box, add it here at the end. And this time I will rotate my text. So it's at the end of the bar. And now this time, instead of being left justified or right justified, I'm going to justify it to the left. And then we can add the value for that data point right in there to the text value. So we'll add that number in there. We're going to change the formatting here in the data bar. So I don't want any decimals. So I'm going to get rid of that by putting a 0F in front of it. We're going to shrink the font size down a little bit, recenter it so it's right there in the middle. Center it a little bit less. And I'm going to bring it down just a bit more. And I think I can right justify it. So it's already got a right justification on the text. The anchor is justifying the text to the right-hand side, which is perfect. And then finally, we'll change the text color of that text box to be something that's white so we can actually see it. That again. And so now I've got numbers at the end of the bars. Now there's a couple bars in here that are not very happy. South Dakota has a very small bar with a number on top of it. So ooh on my design, but you can kind of see what's going on there. And with that, we're done. Like we have bars labeled with things on it in a weird fashion. They're up and down now, which you can't do in desktop. And then if I hit save, back to report, we've now just made our bar chart. So this is a pretty crazy bar chart with a lot of other features on there, and it scales in size just like it would any other chart, and it works like everything else we have. So if you click on the bar, it filters the data. So it acts like a normal Power BI visual. There's other things in here where you can add like tooltips and other linkings and drill throughs on this as well. They're giving you the data controls. So there's a lot more to come along with Charticulator. I think it's just going to keep getting better and better. But man, this is an amazing way of really building visuals, really building something custom that's super cool. And then I'll land and finish on this final step here. This is another visual that I built in Charticulator. And so I'll tell you how what this is doing. This is showing for the drug incidents and traffic incidents by state, it's giving me a graphical representation of how you can see the height of the bar labeled on a line chart. So I'll digest the value here. If I click on Ohio, we can see the value of the drug value is 46, and the traffic value is 10.1. So if we follow that over, so on the left-hand side here for traffic, drugs, it's 46. So if I go over here and follow the trail of that line, you'll see that it goes up to around 46. This is the line here. That's my Ohio data point. So the left side of that bar chart is a line graph, basically a line chart. And then the middle is actually the bars or the height of the bars. So then I can see relatively between the states which bars are the highest. And then I can see graphically in a line what those data points are doing as well. So why might this make sense? So what this is actually doing is it's showing you distribution. For those of you who like statistics, you can see that we're using transparency. And so where the color gets more intense here, these darker shaded areas means we have more of the same kind of color hitting that area. So we have a density at that point. So we're looking at density plots as well. And then we can see up here, this is a bit more sparse. The things are spread out. There's a bit of see-through transparency going on here. So we can kind of look at this. And another observation we can say here is this data is all grouped around this range. It's a very tight distribution. On the opposite side, this one is not. And we can actually see very clearly here on the top of this chart that West Virginia is clearly an outlier, very high at the top of the chart. So this is helping us like kind of really go through and doing some like very simplistic statistics review of like, where are my outliers? What's grouping together? What's not? And the cool part here is when I add the region to this data set, clicking the Midwest, I can now see all the Midwestern United States and see where the distributions are different. And if I click through each region, Midwest, Northeast, South, you can see that distributions are changing. So when I switched between this, you can see the grouping of this actually went up a little bit depending on where I was looking. And then we can look over here in the West region. So this is, I think, very indicative here. The traffic incidences, okay, they're about right. But that's a highly regulated, thing from the government. Drugs might be trying to get our hands around it, but it seems like there's a lot more variance there that's going on. So if I click through the different regions, in the West region, we've got a very tight cluster in this region area. And if we move up to the South, you can see there's a huge difference here. There's a lot more distribution in those data bars. If I go to the Northeast, much higher distribution. So in the Western region, we had a distribution that was sitting way down here at the lower end, but now we have a new distribution for this other area way up higher up here. So just a kind of a fun chart. The chart was made by Nick Snap off of Twitter. He doesn't do videos with me yet. I'm trying to get him there. But as you click through this chart, this is one that he created, he made for looking at drug and traffic incidences for the United States. All right. I've been talking for quite a while. I'll erase that filter and I'm going to end it there. We're going to just, I'll stop sharing and open it up for open questions. Oh, and I will point out one fun fact here. You'll see this gentleman here. So the gentleman who made the new chart, the table visuals, the shapes and stuff, and you pointed him out. Did you check out the guy's name by chance? Who it was? The guy who made the custom visuals, Ethan Netz. And if you catch it,
that's Amir's son.
That's Amir's son.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so if you go over here and you look at for these guys look very similar. So I think that's Amir's son working at Microsoft now. So
we can't see your screen.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Let's try it again. I'll share screen one last time here. Screen this one. So you look at the blog here. Check out the guy who made the new custom visuals, Ethan Netz. So you click on his LinkedIn profile, you're like, huh, that guy looks kind of familiar when I looked at him. So there's Ethan, and then there's his dad. So Amir's on the team, and his son is helping out there. So I'm glad they're keeping it in the family. If his visuals turn out as good as his dad's DAX engine has, it's going to be good things, and it's going to be amazing stuff coming out of that family. So they must just live and breathe code all the time.
Cool.
All right, and with that, we are open for questions.
I have two questions. I'll ask them in rapid succession. You said that somebody made that on Twitter, made that chart visual for you. Is there a way to share those visuals, or did he just send you a PBIX file, or is there a gallery that integrates with Charticulator to where you can go and browse other people's creations?
Great question. So I will share screen again. This time I'll actually do it. There we go. So I have already started doing that. So I've tried to be as clear as I can around helping people build this. So first and foremost, I would say check out the YouTube series. That's probably the best place to start, right? You want to be capable in building your own, bar none. But now there is charts, or so let's go get a gallery.powerbi.tips. In the gallery, I did not point this out. We actually have a whole charts section. So charts that I've made and tried to groom some stuff off the internet. You can click on that. And these are PBI Viz files, not the template files, but these are PBI Viz files that you can go get off the internet that download, and you can then, see different kind of people's data that they've made and see kind of, this is a heat map. This is kind of some stacked bar charts. Nick Snap, I think, made this one up here. So we're just trying to highlight some people who've made some really cool visuals on the internet. I'm actively working on building a better gallery for the Charticulator app inside your desktop. I don't think it's working today. But stay tuned. I think there's some enhancements coming. If I edit this chart, these two buttons up here are, I believe is import and export the template for this file. So I can export it, and it's not yet available. They're working on it. So stay tuned. You will be able to export things directly from the template there. So I'm working actively to figure out how I can integrate as deeply as I can with this. So you can just go to the gallery, gallery.powerbi.tips, and go download samples of templates that you can just inject in here and go. So that will be coming here shortly. They do let you do the import method here. So they'll let you import a template. So if you can get it from the website, you can then import those templates as well. So stay tuned. I'm going to keep updating that and hopefully get a better experience around importing and sharing visuals as well. Any other questions?
Cool.
Not looking at the chat window. Let me pull that up here real quick. Where did I hide it? I put the chat window somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, I got it now. People like it. Oh, okay. Some questions here. Do you recommend to have the same scale in the y-axis? No, not for Charticulator. So it depends on what you're trying to build. Again, this is a lot of experimentation and playing with the application. So I'm going to go break my wonderful, beautiful chart here. I'll edit it. If you modify the y-axis, so let me just make this chart a bit bigger here. Let's go 0 on all these. 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. Tab. All right. So there's my chart. This is the chart that I'm building. All right. So I've got a chart here. You asked, what about the y-axis? So what if I want to scale horizontally to show the data value? What if I don't want the data point on here? So I can delete the data point. What if I want an axis on here? If you add an axis, so if I grab the drugs value and added it to the y-axis, it's going to do something really weird. It's going to take all those data bars and try to draw them where they live on that data axis. So that's not a good technique. So I don't do that. I'm building the glyph and I'm changing the height of the glyph bar to do my values. Now, if you want to see the data axis, you can do this a couple ways. I can get rid of on the shape. I can delete the height of the bar. And I believe I can add the drug value now to the y-axis. Oh, just kidding. Still doesn't like that. Let's go back in here to this visual. I'm going to do, hold on one second. Let me just adjust this really quick. Don't save. I'm going to make this chart a little less busy because there's a lot of stuff going on in there. I'm going to add the region option to it and then edit it again. Hopefully I can add region. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. So I'm going to make this chart a little less busy with not using state. Instead, we're just going to use region and for the data points. So I will do now plot segment and we will group by region. Hopefully group by region. Okay. So now I've got 4 regions. This is going to be easier for us to look at. So if I wanted to have the data bars or a data axis on there, what I would probably have done is built this a little bit differently. Let's start from scratch. I would have added a data axis. So going from the bottom, which would be 0, up to the highest value. This is a data axis that I add. And then I would add my drug value to this, which then gives me a data point on it. That's my average data point. And now what I would do is then grab my glyph, and then I would draw my glyph up to the height of that data point. This is the exact same data. It's giving me the exact same height of the bar, but now I have a data axis on one of the data points. So then I would, then we can add all of our other data points back on. And then if we want, we would then add the region back here to the x-axis, and then that would then reorient things. And then I can flip around or change the orientation of this. So this one is sort by drugs. And then let's do descending order. And I think you can also go here, state, and then I can change the order even further. I just saw this yesterday when I could get in. Oh. How did I do that yesterday? There's a way that you can actually adjust the sort order on the shape itself. So you can actually custom rearrange the items on that list as well. Maybe it's this one. This one? Yeah. Okay, here. Oh, this is cool. So this is where you can actually click inside here and you can just drag and drop the different regions around and then hit OK. And it will actually reshape and move the data points for you. And then it stays that way. It's resorted them in that order for you for always. So again, tons of really cool flexibility. This is a liar's chart if you guys follow data points. So we need to fix this. And the range of the bar chart must always start at 0. So I'll make it 0, and then now the data bars go up, and now we have the right data bar axis for everything. Great question. Is there a resource to read upon inserting Power Apps in Power BI? That's a great question. I'm going to pinch it over here and say, if you're doing anything Power Apps, Shane off of Power Apps 911, I think is what his name is, off of YouTube. Super incredible, ultra knowledgeable. And he's like by far the biggest, I think, YouTuber on doing the Power Apps. So Power Apps 911 on YouTube, I think is what his channel is. Shane. He's awesome. He's got a ton of stuff. There's also another gentleman that I really, really enjoy watching for Power Apps things. So his name is Reza Dorani, I believe. R-E-Z.
Yeah, Reza Durrani spoke at the user group
He's
last
awesome.
year.
Super knowledgeable, and he's pro dev. Like he's like Mr. Code all day through and through, and he knows his stuff. So when he gets into this, like he loves it, and he's a super passionate guy around the Power App stuff. So highly recommend go find his videos on YouTube as well. Awesome videos, very, very well done, produced, and he's very knowledgeable, very easy to follow. I don't see any other questions that I'm catching. Any other Ed or Shirlesh? Any?
Have you have you found any gotchas with the Charticulator where it doesn't do something that you would expect a normal Power BI visual to do, or have they pretty well integrated all of the, because I noticed the cross highlighting works. That was some of my questions, but
Yes.
anything where you're like, oh, here's a pain point.
The whole thing's a pain point. So I'll say that. So, and the reason I say that is because it's so different than the way you're used to playing with it. And again, I would really, again, the videos I do, there's 8 of them out on YouTube. I'd highly recommend start at, I called it season 1, episode 1. Start at episode 1. I go through every single visual and we talk about what is a link? What are the guides? What does a plot segment mean? What types of plot segments there are? What does the scaffold do? And how can I grab the scaffold and change it to a polar chart? So I can take this and make a polar chart out of it. So I can take the same glyph and now make a radial chart with the same data on it. What does that do? So tons of really, really good video content out there. And I would say just go through and work the demos on your own, because you kind of have to form your own way of building the visuals and how they work. So you can do a lot more than you can with Power BI Desktop with this, but there are some distinct limitations, some of which where you're doing like some very unique custom calculations or custom aggregating things. One of the chart types I tried to build was a box and whisker plot. For those who do statistics, that's where you get your quartiles and your median and your min and max ranges all together on a chart. I couldn't do it. There's no function to let you calculate what a quartile was. So working with another great MVP friend of mine, we were able to go into the Charticulator code and submit a pull request to add quartiles into the program. So now it will calculate it for you, but you kind of are at the restrictions. There's some limitations within the application that I've seen. It also, the other limitation I would say that wonky, you said, what is wonky? What's weird, right? This chart type, if I make this chart a square like this, and I change all the width 0, 0, 0, 0, and make this nice and big on the page, this is now defined as a square. So especially when you're talking like bar charts, sorry, go back to that, put that back where it was. Zoop. Especially when you're talking like bar charts that are longer and wide. So let's go back here to the scaffold. Let's go back here to the X scaffold. Do it this way. Oops. See if I can go back to what it was before. Okay, this type of chart, right? If I make a chart that is elongated, long shape wise, like we have here, when I save this and go back to desktop, it's now stuck in that ratio. It does not stretch. It does not stretch the chart to fit whatever the window's doing. So if I make my window very narrow, it's not going to stretch it out to make it long and wide. It keeps that aspect ratio of whatever it is. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this because I feel like it's kind of stretchy charts anyways. I would think I should be able to grow the canvas to whatever the Power BI thing is doing. So that's one thing I kind of don't like about it. That you can see there as the shading of it. That's the ratio. Yeah. That's their canvas that they're using there. So yeah, not ideal, but better than what they've had in the past. And like here, right? I would want, in this case where I have a very narrow but wide chart, right? I have to build the chart to match the scenario that I'm building for the space of the visual. So if I want, you can do it. You can make the chart wide, click the ellipsis, click edit, and then just make the chart wide. So you do one of these things to it, right? So now I've got this nice skinny wide chart that I'm looking at, and maybe that's what I wanted. And so now that I have it as a skinny wide chart, I can then just go back and use this in desktop. So let's just make this a bit wider here, pull these guys over a bit more on the left and right hand side. So now that I've stretched the chart, now I hit save, and now I go back to report, and now it's stretched out in more of like a landscape mode type thing, and it'll still retain that same ratio. Again, just be aware that's how it works. I've also used Charticulator to build, and so in some of the data science realm, you'll have like 3 or 4 data axes on the left-hand side of a chart. I've done you can do 2 axes in a Y chart, a scatter chart. Now you can also do like 4, 5, 6 if you want to. I don't recommend it. I think that's not a good design principle, but it does give you the flexibility to build n number of additional data points on the Y-axis. Cool. Any other questions?
I think Ray has a question. Ray,
yeah, I was just curious if you'd worked with Synoptic Panel at all. It seems like it's kind of a similar style of design, but that isn't technically endorsed through, it doesn't have an in Power BI builder. Have you used Synoptic Panel at all?
Yes, I actually have the trial version. So for those of you who don't know, I believe this is the one you're talking about for, let's go Synoptic Panel. Okay, Viz?
Yeah, that's the one, yes.
Yep. So this one, if I recall correctly, I got a visual demo here. I believe this is more of like a graphical interface, so where you're able to draw glyphs on the page, and then you can have like let's imagine you have like a layout for an office, right? Different office region spaces, and you want to label a certain graphical area to match that. I like the guys here from Sql Bi OK Viz. These are the same guys that do Sql Bi. These guys are super sharp.
Yeah.
They have a dedicated developer, and they are on point with what they're building. So I trust all the stuff that comes from out of these guys. They have great charts and super awesome things. So I really, really like this stuff. This is super cool. But this is there's a big difference here, because this one is allowing you to import some sort of map or glyph or image on the base of the chart, and then you're binding data points to shapes on those glyphs.
Yeah, I guess that was my question. I was curious if you had a better technique for that, because the way that you have to do it is you have to have all these numbers and commas, and like it doesn't really have a good fill. It's really hard to get precise with your drawing on it.
Yes.
So I wasn't sure if you had if there was a better method, or maybe you used it and you said, oh yeah, I know you can just use this instead or something like that.
Yeah, I've used that one. I believe let's just check here. I actually have state data. This is very rare. I actually have like legit information on this. Let me just see if I have one here. I think it's this one. Okay, so there's another visual called the shape map. Okay, the shape map is doing basically the same thing that Synoptic Panel is doing, and you can actually go into the properties of this, and I believe, yeah, okay, this gets very much in the weeds very quickly, where you can actually build your custom map, and it can be anything you want. So you click this Add Map button. Now, I haven't gotten into this too far, but apparently you can build a custom file that has all your mapping elements together that would let you build anything under the sun. And it looks just like a shape file. I believe it's a GeoJSON file is what we're looking for here. So I believe there's some Power BI custom shape map visuals, custom shape maps. I'm not sure that's going to get what I want here. There's a couple good. Discovery EI is the best one I know for mapping stuff. So they use a lot of ArcGIS, Map Shaper, and the tutorial. You definitely want to look at their content for maps and things like that. I say maps like a country, but it doesn't have to be a country. A map can be anything you want. So it's just a defined perimeter of an object graphically shown on a page. So this is where she starts talking about the geographical spatial layer in JSON format, and where you visualize all that stuff down there. So they have tons of great tutorials. Here's how to create and modify a geospatial layer in QGIS, all kinds of crazy stuff that they're doing. So really, really interesting things from a geographical standpoint. Are you thinking maps for like graphing maps, or are you thinking like maps of like building maps?
So we were actually looking at, uploading a car, right? So a new car. And then every time we have quality issues in certain parts of the engine compartment, being able to load that up through OKViz's, Synoptic Designer.
Yep, it also works too.
Yeah, get real specific about which shading happens where and that kind of thing. I think it's very good response. But every time we have a new car, it's like hell going through trying to get that to be precise.
Exactly. I don't know. Some of these ones are a bit older now. I believe I've seen some really interesting things on the community blog where they are doing 3D like renderings of like 3-dimensional objects. I don't know where I saw it the other day. I saw something like it's basically a container. Think of like a shipping yard, right? You have a shipping yard with containers stacked up in a vertical fashion. They made a 3D plot that you could have of all the images in 3D, and you could spin it, rotate it, whatever. Click on 3-dimensional objects like an STL file, and then as you click on those objects in 3-dimensional space, it would bind its data back to everything else that you have on the report page. So I think it's Power BI 3D STL plot. Let's see if I can. Again, I'm pulling all the things out of my head here.
Good stuff. I'm going to get into that charticulator. I think that actually has a lot more practical application.
Totally does. I would totally agree with that. Excellent question. Any other questions? I got more comments here. Let's check out chat window. Yep, couple good things. Any other questions? Anyone want to come off mute and ask another question? All right. I think with that, we've run people right ragged at the end of their day.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you, Mike. This has been terrific. Thank you very much. I know
No
it's
problem.
late for you, but if nobody has any other questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
I appreciate you all for your time. It was a pleasure joining you guys. Maybe in the near future, hopefully maybe the end of the year, we'll get together in person. We'll do one on the beach or something like that. I would love to get out and see you guys.
Absolutely.
LA, San Diego. That's where I love that place. It's so good.
You are most welcome to LA.
Well, I'll talk with Ed and
Just
then
keep everybody posted.
yes, we will. We'll be in touch and maybe we can get something together. That'd be awesome.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
See you later, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See you. Bye.